Hey guys, I'm Jamal. I'm a fitness trainer. I help with nutrition. I can help you drop off body fat, put on muscle mass, and bring out the best version of yourself. Today, we're gonna be targeting 3 ways on how to grow your legs as fast as possible, and the 3 points that we wanna dig into. The 3 points we wanna dig into on how to grow your legs the best way are gonna be your mobility and your flexibility, because that'll limit your growth and can cause other limiting factors like back pain and things like that. And then the second way would be exercise selection. So you actually grow the legs and develop the legs the way that you want them to develop, whether you're looking to build up your quads, hamstrings, glutes, or calves. And then the last one would be revealing your weaknesses, so you encounter them and confront them versus just putting them off to the side and hiding them like someone would do by throwing on a pair of sweats. So bringing out the shorts. So we'll get into it. So the first thing we're gonna do is start to warm up the lower half. So we're gonna warm up that lower body with a couple exercises and mobility routines that you can bring in anywhere. So you could do this at home. You could do this before a competition, a powerlifting competition, or before a big heavy leg session. And it's things that you can incorporate and repeat over and over again. And as you keep repeating them, you actually get deeper into stretches. So just to show you a quick dynamic warm up. So what we would do here is we're gonna do basically a bear crawl rock back, or we're just gonna stretch the inner thighs and hips. So we're gonna split up these pads pretty wide, almost like you're gonna do a split. And then you're just gonna rock back and forward. So you're gonna start to hear some things click. This is gonna wake up those hips as well as unlock them for you, because it's kind of like a regular squat pattern. So you're gonna notice that my toes are stuck into the ground, and then I'm bending right there at the hips, and I'm trying to sit on my heels. Now when you get really good at these, you'll be able to bring the knees out really wide, but then some of you might get locked up. It's okay. You wanna try to embrace that and dig in as far as you can, causing a little bit of discomfort. And then when you feel any points that are limiting you, try to push a little further, kind of like forced stretching. You can load up stretches as well. If you have a partner, they can put pressure on your lower back, but not too much. Or you can put a plate on your lower back. It's okay if you round here because we're not loaded, but you know, if you're butt winking at the bottom of your squat, then you have some problems. And then you can bring it in as well. And what I like to do is I like to invert my knees, because you'll feel like the IT bands are stretching a little bit. It'll be a little bit harder to do these. But yeah, you could do these about 10 to 20 repetitions. Once you start to feel hot, I'll start to warm up my upper back too, just in case like we'll start back squatting or something with a cat-cow. So you're gonna be squeezing that upper back and then stretching. So this is kind of like a full body warm up. And if we do that 10 to 20 repetitions, that's fine as well. Then I'll show you another one, which will be the bear crawl rock back. So the bear crawl rock back will be about ½ an inch off the ground, toes down, and then you're gonna sit into that squat. Your knees are coming off the ground, then you're gonna sit into it and drive up. So you start to feel real hot here, and if you're a little bit out of shape, you're gonna start to feel that cardio start to come up. It's okay, this is a workout too. You could throw this into a high intensity exercise program or circuit, but we're using it as a mobility stretch. If you're not ready for this, then you could just pin the knees back down and then go to where you feel comfortable. Hold it for 20 seconds. But we'll warm up the upper body too with some shoulder taps. So the key to these bear crawl shoulder taps is trying to keep the hips as tight as possible, abs tight, and then you're just gonna touch each side. So we're gonna tap and try not to sway your hips to help you finish or complete the movement or make this movement easier for yourself. So you're trying to keep nice and straight and tight. And then we'll swap over to a goblet squat. So this is all part of the warm up. So you might start stretching at this point. You could pick something like a 10, or you could pick something heavier. So let me show you guys something with a 50. Woo! Now it's okay to go for a high repetition here because we're still warming up. But this, you could take a wider stance right through here. and then you just bend the knees. So we're just bringing in some blood flow. You might hear my knees popping, but as soon as they start to get nice and hot, that'll go away. What this is doing is warming up my inner thighs. It's warming up my glutes because I'm shoving those knees out. Feet are nice and firm on the ground, digging into the toes. Now I'll show you one more that is still part of the warm up. I know this is a pretty long warm up, and for some of you out of shape, you're gonna be hurting. Right now, my breath is already kicking up, but that's what we want. We want some core temperature pretty hot. We'll do a Bulgarian split squat. Now the Bulgarian split squat can be loaded or unloaded, but we're just looking to stretch the hips and the quads. So this one, we're gonna go right through here, toes down, and then we're coming forward. We'll go for about 15 repetitions each side. You're noticing that I'm doing a pretty fast pace here because I'm not looking to burn out my legs, but I'm looking to get them nice and hot so I don't feel any pain once I start working out. But yeah, we could probably clock this maybe 7 minutes on the warm up, something like that. Or you can just do it until you feel hot enough and ready to go. Now we could do some leg raises as well to warm up the core temperature. But those would be mobility and dynamic stretches that you can do before the workout just to get the blood flow and everything rolling the way that you want it to. And then that will decrease the chances of you hurting your lower back, as well as increase the chances of you stimulating muscle mass, because I'm warmed up to get after it. Now, if you want a deeper, more intense warm up, let's say you're older, 50, 60, 70, you could keep this routine as well as throw about 10 to 30 minutes of cardio beforehand, because the goals might change. Maybe muscle mass isn't your main concern, but maybe you're just looking for longevity of life. It'd be nicer to get your joints even hotter, as well as include and incorporate the cardiovascular routine right early on, so those joints are nice and hot. Now we're gonna dig into exercise selection, which would be the second way for you to grow your legs. So 3 movements I'm gonna give you today are based on a calf raise, because we gotta train our calves. Glutes, so it's gonna be a hip thrust, and quads, hamstrings, glutes, encompassing with the back squat. So the exercise we're gonna hop into is gonna be the hip thrust. So it's getting real popular to start to see the glute drive machines here and there. The hip thrust is just old-fashioned exercise. You could do it off of a bench. Right here I have a glute block. Some gyms are gonna have just straight up machines, but if you don't have either, you can use just a regular bench and a Smith machine or a barbell. And sometimes you're limited on the range of motion going down there, so you could actually use an incline bench press, but that would be to show you a different day. But for this exercise, a lot of people do this wrong as far as like sweeping up the heels, taking the heels off of the ground. When you dig in those heels, that's when you're gonna actually be able to squeeze the glute and keeping your toes nice and flat on the ground, as well as just the positioning. Some people get uncomfortable doing this exercise because they're gonna be crushing their hips or their groin. You have to put it on the padding of your quads. Sounds funny, but you're pushing it up and away. Take this from somebody who can hip thrust about 600 pounds. Like, if your technique is not on point, you're not gonna be able to hip thrust more than 315 pounds and feel comfortable within the movement. So I'm gonna sneak in there, pin my upper back on there to show you guys. So right through here, we're gonna wiggle in here, dig your upper back on there, and then you're gonna notice the quad placement. So I want it on the meat of my quads. I'm not gonna crush my groin or my hip area, because then you'll end up with bruises and then you'll never want to do hip thrusts again. Now your feet are going to be straight out. You'll want this pad here unless you're a savage, but you could turn your toes out as well. We just don't want to see the knees clicking inward. So we're going to drive up, unrack, bring it down, and then squeeze on your way up. So each time I'm coming up, I'm looking for a full contraction at the top, and I'm stretching on my way down. The eccentric part of the movement, which is on the way down, is where you're gonna get the most muscle damage and tears in order for you to go ahead and make gains on the glutes. Some people are quad dominant, some people are posterior chain dominant, which means that they build glutes faster than someone who builds quads faster. So what you ideally wanna do is pick a weight that you can fully control it throughout the entire movement and actually feel your butt stretching at the bottom and you being able to squeeze your glutes together like you got a peanut in between your cheeks and you're trying to crush it, or a penny trying to hold it up top. So squeeze, and you might get a little bit of hamstring development here and your abs are actually working. So the reason we would want to do the hip thrust is going to be because it'll prevent lower back pain, because if you have massive glutes and like a massive upper back, you're not going to be using a lot of your lower back. And don't get stuck on, you know, what variation should I do, like B stance glutes, or glute exercises like kickbacks and all of that. That's all fine, willy-nilly stuff, but the key to growing the glutes is gonna be eating enough so you can create a caloric surplus, as well as getting stronger within the movement. Because if you start with 135 and then you start stacking plates, 225, 315 pounds, your glutes will grow. So the next one we're gonna address is the king of all lower body exercises, is that back squat. So the reason people have a love-hate relationship with this is because it fries your lower back sometimes if you don't have proper ankle mobility and you can't keep your heels nice and flat on the ground. So it's really the key on how you do it. And just like the hip thrust over there, you gotta keep your feet nice and flat on the ground. Then you gotta find a positioning that works for you. I'm gonna show you guys quick set of squats and just a quick setup, but there's a lot of different variations that you can get into. You can go into a wide stance, you can go into a narrow stance, you can go toes out, you can even do toes inverted and do a quarter squat. And you can go ahead and throw this on your upper back, up in the traps in a high bar position, or a low bar position, where people would say that that's more biased on your glutes and your lower back. But if you just do squats and you just get stronger at them with whichever position you choose to do so, without, you know, faltering on technique, you're gonna build your legs and they're gonna grow. My preferred method right now, so it limits how much lower back I can use, is a high bar squat, which can almost convert into a front squat. And that would be potentially the substitute if we were doing like leg presses and pendulum squats and hack squats. So I'll show you the high bar squat. So right away, I'm gonna go ahead and grab that bar. I'm gonna place it on my upper back and traps. You might not have a shelf up there for now, but as your muscle maturity keeps growing, you will start to put on some size on your traps from back squatting. Some people might say, oh, how'd you get your traps? Really, it was just squatting. Low bar position would be there, and you'll have to look for a nice position that you're comfortable with too. But we'll go high bar. I'm gonna get under that bar, place the feet under, and then I'm gonna wedge forward to go ahead and push up the weight. So there's no real effort done pulling it out. Then I'm gonna take 3 steps back. 1, 2, 3. The third step is to line up my feet. So I gotta make sure that my toes are in line. Then I'm gonna break at the hips and the knees at the same time, taking a big breath into those abs so I can cause an intra-abdominal pressure. Dig into the floor, breathe out as I come up. And that would be your back squat. You do your designated reps, whether it's 5, 12, and then you re-rack. You can do little pauses and tempos on the way down and just push up. But that would be your back squat. That's gonna build the front of your legs, the back of your legs, and sometimes you will get some calves out of it, but you don't wanna just do squats and think that your glutes are gonna grow if you're a quad biased person. So if you have trouble growing your glutes, then you're gonna wanna designate more time on specialized exercises like deadlifting, RDLs, Romanian deadlifts, kickbacks, and hip thrusts more often than your back squats. But that's the back squat. Okay, now that we're done with that, we're gonna go over to the calf raises. We're gonna bring this block over because it's about 2 inches of a deficit. So I'll show you guys why we need this. So we're gonna walk back over to that Smith machine. So you have to get the placement right. If you have a calf raise machine, you can do it on a standing calf raise. If you're just at home, you could use a step, and then you get the full stretch at the bottom, and then the full contraction. I'm gonna show you guys what people do wrong all the time, and that's gonna be like pulsing quads, and too many different variations. Toes inverted, toes out, things like that. Same name of the game. Either get more repetitions out of lighter weights or get stronger. But be careful with the calves, doing calf raises too heavy, because you could tear your Achilles tendon here if you're going too heavy. So things to think about here, you're gonna set up just like your back squat. Look for your sweet spot as far as foot position. When you start to get tired or your feet start to cramp up, usually it means that your feet are pretty weak. So you wanna get your feet stronger. This will get your feet stronger, and it'll stretch your ankles for your back squats. So train your calves. So right through here. So there, I feel a huge stretch position. My heel is touched onto the ground, and then I'm gonna squeeze all the way to the top. I'll be up here for about 1 second, and then we'll take about 4-second eccentric. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, tap and go. So this tempo will make you an absurd amount of calf gains, but what you're looking to do is bring it to failure, and you're looking for that weight to push you to failure within that 8 to 12 rep range, or you can push upward to 20 to 30 rep range. Your perceived exertion, so how hard it feels, usually feels a lot heavier when you're doing higher repetitions. So just be careful that you might be quitting a little bit earlier because you chose a higher rep range. Even 12 to 15, but let's say you're training with a mesocycle. So you're just training for 4 weeks, right? Now you're training for 4 weeks. You want to keep the same repetition scheme that you're coming in to do each week so that you can progress the exercise. Because if I do 20 repetitions with 30 pounds and then next week I fail with the same 30 pounds at 8 to 12, you didn't necessarily get better. So if you came in and you started off, let's say high repetitions, let's say low repetitions, and you did 8 to 12 for 4 weeks, you started with 30 pounds, then the next week you're at 40, then 50, 60. It's an easier way to track. But if you're constantly changing variations like toes in, and then you do toes out, and then you come neutral, and you switch every single week, you're not necessarily progressing because you might be using the same 30 pounds, or you might be tricking yourself because you feel those calves in a different way. But in reality, you're not getting progression. So the progression is easier to track if you do the same thing every single week. But those are calf raises. All right, guys, here's a bonus tip for your calf raises. You can do them straight leg with a little slight bend in the knee, but you also want to do a seated variation with a knee bend. So right through there, you're gonna come up and squeeze. You would just elevate your feet right up front, and you could keep some dumbbells there, even alternating. That would be a different variation that you can include into your exercise regimen. All right, guys, so we just went over mobility, the stretches you're gonna need in order to loosen up your hips, lower back, and prevent injuries, as well as we went through 3 different exercises that will increase your muscle growth in your legs, which will help you build more confidence. Revealing your legs, like if you're wearing sweats or anything like that, you're gonna wanna bring out the shorts so you can confront any weaknesses or anything like that, so you can build more mind-muscle connection as well. And if you guys like this type of content, like the video, hit the notification button, and check out these videos if you want to see more.